Hello and welcome to the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lily Badcock and I am a transformational confidence coach and founder of the Confidence Academy Members Club, helping men and women just like you to build unshakable confidence and self-belief. Each week, I will be bringing you new episodes with advice and guidance to help you rebuild lost confidence, manage anxiety, and finally start living the life you were born to live. It is my aim to reach as many people as possible with the message that no matter what you're going through, no matter what your struggle may be, there is hope. And there is a way to create an amazing life for yourself. The incredible people I have been blessed to interview on the show are walking, talking examples of how this is possible. And I truly hope you will find their stories uplifting, inspiring, and motivational. The conversations are very open and candid and occasionally may include some adult language, so please take care when listening around little ones or grab some headphones. This podcast series is brought to you in association with Lily Badcock Confidence Coaching and the Confidence Academy Members Club. If you are ready to make the shift from anxious and frustrated to calm and confident, then visit www.lilybadcock.com today and get started with the free resources that are waiting there for you. I need you to know that you're not alone, that it can and will get easier, and that the transformation you seek is possible. You are more powerful than you know, and I'm here to teach you everything I know about harnessing that power and creating an amazing life on your terms. Before we dive in, don't forget to leave a review for us on iTunes and to check out the links in the podcast notes to the free resources we have available for you. But for now, let's get you on your way to living your epic life, free of anxiety and full of confidence. After all, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. Hello guys, welcome back. You're listening to the Confidence Academy podcast with Lily Badcock, and today I am talking to the beautiful Mili Metz, who's all the way over in California. And Mili is a professor, a consultant, and a non-profit CLO. And if you don't know what that means, don't panic, because she's going to make it all clear for all of us when I let her speak. So Mili, welcome to my podcast and thank you so much for being here.
Lily, thank you so much. I love that we are Millie and Lily and we're at Confidence Academy. It's awesome.
Oh my God, I didn't even realize. Millie and Lily. We need a song. Like, I feel a song coming on. I'm going to work on it.
Yes.
I'm going to work on it.
I'll
have it ready by the end. Yeah, by the end. I'll showcase it for you.
I can't wait. I
love it. So you're a professor, a consultant, and a non-profit CLO. Tell us what that means.
Okay, so the trifecta of what I do is I teach psychology courses at a small liberal arts college here in sunny Southern California. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? If you've taken a class, you know what professors do. We stand up there and we drone on endlessly and your eyes glaze over and eventually we test you and then you cry, maybe. Anyway, that's that. I also am a leadership consultant. So that's a little bit like if you ever watch Friends, what does Chandler Bing do?
You're a transponster.
Yeah, that's right. That's me. So leadership consulting does not involve computers unless we're doing presentations. For the most part, it really has to do with highlighting and examining your leadership ability. And from my perspective, everyone is a leader. So are you a mom? Well, then you're the leader of a family, right? You have a little one who you're in charge of leading the way for. Are you, a teacher? Are you a janitor? It doesn't really matter what your job title is. You lead in every capacity wherever you go. And that's sort of my ethos. So when I do leadership consulting, I really talk about leveraging your potential, your aptitude, your ability, and also your interest and your drive to really create that authentic form of contributing to the world. So
I love it.
Yeah. One of my big initiatives with that this year is through the nonprofit that I work with, the Swell Collective. We're launching an amazing leadership summit. It's called We Are Power. It's going to be in San Diego on October 7th. So that's coming up in a couple months. And we're focused on young women, 18 to 22 years old here locally, to empower them to step into a space of owning their voice and owning their power, because we as women are powerful. So
Yes, we are. Oh, I love that.
Blending both worlds. So
Yeah, that's incredible. And I don't know if you know, but I actually have a course called Find Your Voice, because I'm all about that thing. It's and my course is about find your voice in every aspect of the word. So because I'm a singer and I'm a vocal coach first, so it's helping people find their physical voice, because I find that then leads to unlocking their metaphorical voice, where they, exactly as you say, they realize that they are powerful. And I'm very careful to say they don't learn to be powerful, because you guys listening, you're already powerful even if you don't know it. It's just what we are, isn't it? Yes. So I'm all about that. I love that. And I love how much your face lit up when you started talking about that as well. You were literally glowing at me through the screen. Love it.
Because I'm so excited about it. And it's such an amazing opportunity to collaborate, because I think that's the other part of leadership that's often missed, because we're social creatures. And if we don't actualize on the connections and the network and the closeness of being with people, who are we leading? What are we doing?
Right. Yeah. And actually, I want to pick up on that a little bit, because I feel, obviously, my audience with this podcast, all struggle in some way with anxiety, confidence issues, low self-esteem, self-belief, and all of that, stress and all those kinds of things. And so I really love that you said that you see leadership as something that we all do. Because I think often when you're feeling like anxiety is winning, and when you feel powerless, don't you? You feel like you've completely, lost control of everything. So maybe we could speak to those people just for a moment about how can they start stepping into their role as a leader, even as a leader in their own life. Like, what advice would you give those people who feel like they're powerless, but we know they're not? What do you want them to know?
What I would want them to know, above and beyond everything else, is that we don't exist in a binary world of powerful, powerless, right? We exist in this beautiful world of having and sharing power, both with the people in our lives and across the different facets of our lives. So often what I found with anxiety is, there is, of course, a generalized anxiety that affects everyone and everything. But some of us, our anxieties are limited to certain types of social situations, certain types of ability. So math anxiety, for example, right? Public speaking anxiety, or just the social anxiety of meeting new people or having to have conversations that are, it's a little scary. And so to me, those are the places where, if you know that your anxiety is targeted to a certain context, really focus and recognize that that's a growth edge. That's a place that you're developing into. However, there are other avenues where you're incredibly strong and have so many talents and gifts. And in those moments where we're at the growth edge, we're at the precipice, to remind yourself, yes, this is my growth edge, but you know what? There are other places where I really fly, where I soar, and I'm fearless. Because even the most anxious person deep inside is fearless.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that. Yeah, we're so on the same page. And I think, it's true. People who say, I'm not confident or I'm always anxious, I always challenge them to look at that statement, because there is something that you're good at. It's just you're maybe not giving it any value. So I use this example a lot, but I do the very best impression of a turtle coming out of hibernation, which I'm going to have to do at some point, because I keep talking about it. I'm going to have to make this happen. But, and it's just a stupid example, because it's just something I do. It always makes people laugh, or it makes them go like, what the hell is wrong with her? But it brings me joy, even if it doesn't bring anyone else joy. But actually, most of the time, it does make people laugh. And the reason for me saying that is, it would be so easy for me, on a bad day to go, oh, I'm useless, I have nothing to bring to the world. It's not true. Like, I do the best impression of a turtle coming out of hibernation. Like, that brings joy to me, to others around me. And, it's a silly example, really. But I always challenge people, if they think they're not confident, I say that's not true. You're talking about a specific part of your life you're maybe not confident in. So maybe in relationships you're not confident, but maybe at work you're like the best person there. Or maybe at work you're not confident, but maybe you make the best meals. Maybe you're the best chef in the kitchen. Do you know what I mean? Like we all have these, we all have these strengths. And something I realized recently was a tendency of mine, and I am someone who I guess I have an anxious personality. I'm still uneasy saying that because I still don't buy it. Like I don't want that to be part of my thing, but maybe it is. But you know, it's this thing of I've completely lost my train of thought.
No,
There we go.
I think I hear what you're saying, Lily. I think what I am picking up is this idea that you don't self-identify as being limited by your anxiety. So to say that you are an anxious person suggests that that is who you are.
Right.
And I agree. I don't believe that. I believe that there might be moments where you suffer from anxiety, where it is something that affects you, and then you are forced to cope with it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't believe you are your anxiety.
No.
And I wouldn't want you or anyone else out there listening to believe that they are their anxiety.
Absolutely. And I think the identity that we attach to anxiety is a huge part of the problem, because I say that because when I was looking at overcoming my own, and let's be honest, it's not something that you just sit down one day and go, okay, I'm going to overcome my anxiety. It's just like, it's constantly in the back of your mind. Like, I want to get rid of this. I want to get over it. Like, what can I do? What can I do? And then you realize you're not, and then you beat yourself up and you get more anxious, and it kind of goes down that rabbit hole. But yeah, absolutely. It's that realization that it's not who you are, but sometimes that can stop you from overcoming it, because if it's not who you are, it's very easy to then go, well, then who am I? If you've lived with anxiety so long, and if it really has become to you part of your identity, it can be really scary. And, you know, anxiety really is just the belief that you're not okay. And I think, you know, sometimes, as horrible as it is, and as much as we might think, I want to overcome this, you know, without even realizing, the idea of getting rid of it is terrifying, because you don't know what lies on the other side of that. I always like to talk about, I always like to say that we have this person that's kind of sitting above us, whether you want to say that that's a higher power, whether you want to call it God, or your inner, you know, inner knowing, or your intuition, or call it Bob. I mean, I call my anxiety Bob. You call it what you like, but it kind of sits up there, like I say, like a lifeguard. So imagine how a lifeguard looks at a swimming pool. Yes. The job of the lifeguard is to be on edge. That lifeguard has to be ready to jump at any given moment if he sees a ripple in the water, or if somebody calls for help. And we have this part of ourselves, which is our anxiety, that we all have, that does that. It's just some of our lifeguards are more vigilant than others. Yes. And they will jump at the slightest little thing. Yes. But I think when you realize that that is the job of your anxiety, it's keeping you safe. And if your anxiety is one of those overzealous lifeguards that's off the ladder at every minute blowing his whistle, then you don't have to live like that. You can actually, you do still have the power, and you are still in control of that. And you can actually have a word with your lifeguard, or whatever you want to call it, and say, actually, you need to chill. You know, you can chill. It's fine. You know, I'm just going shopping. Like, we can chill. Like, you know, and I think it's that realization. And if you are someone who does think that their anxiety is what defines you, then I would say, okay, that's fine. If that's the way that you want to feel for now, but maybe look at other things that also define you. Like, if you're not ready to say yet that anxiety doesn't define you at all, maybe just look around and go, okay, well, maybe it defines me sometimes, but what also defines me is how much I love my kids, or what an amazing friend I am, or, you know, how great I am at, I don't know, even, you know, cooking tacos. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're gonna play that game, balance it out and say, okay, so what else defines me? And you could even do that as an exercise and write it down, I think. So awesome discussion.
I absolutely encourage people to do that. because sometimes what I find, I don't know if this is true for you, Lily, is when we have these scripts in our mind, it's like a tape on a loop. It just replays. And sometimes we don't choose to press play. It just gets pushed through something. Something triggers us and it hits the play button and our anxiety just runs on a loop, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I find it's helpful to break out of that loop by actually physically writing or typing or whatever way you have of documenting,
Yes.
not just the stream of your thoughts, but more a focus on your strengths, really identifying things that you are good at. And the amazing thing is when you start that process, it might seem a little overwhelming, but as you start writing, amazingly, things start coming out. It starts rising to the surface and it shuts that tape off. You have to shut off that sound in order to start processing this new piece.
Yeah. And I'm a huge advocate for that. I love to journal and I do love to write. And most of the time I will. I have found, and I still don't know which way around it goes. When I'm feeling out of whack, I tend not to journal. And then I wonder, am I feeling out of whack because I didn't journal? Or am I not journaling because I feel like, I think it goes round and round, doesn't it?
Yes.
But I talk about it a lot, and I know how it must sound, especially if you've never tried it. Because we, like, all of my guests are talking about it, and I think that says something, because everyone I speak to on this podcast has dealt with anxiety in some way, shape, or form, either personally or with clients. Most of the time, both. And we are all people who identify as either having overcome it completely or having been able to thrive in spite of it. And we all talk about journaling in some way, shape, or form. So, by this point, if you keep listening to this podcast and you keep hearing us talk about write down your thoughts, journal, and you're still sat there going, oh, I don't know, it sounds crap. Like, try it. Do you know what I mean? Just give it a go, because there's got to be something in it. When every single person who identifies as having overcome it, anxiety, or being able to be happy in spite of it, when all of those people are telling you that they do some kind of journaling in some way, shape, or form, surely you have to pay attention to that.
You have to. And honestly, it's like anything else, with the exception of certainly doing drugs or murdering people, right? There is a lot to be said for just stepping out of your comfort zone long enough to experiment and figure out what does and doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
Everything is not for everyone. And you might very well be a person that journaling is not for. But I promise you, you're not going to figure that out by not journaling. You're going to figure that out after having journaled.
Yeah. And I also think, like, what's the worst case scenario is you'll try it and it won't work. You'll be no worse off. You'll be exactly as you are now. The thing is, though, it will shift you. You'll be amazed. And like you said, the more you write, the more you get beyond the kind of surface chatter that sits on the top of your mind, and you get into what you really think, what you really feel. And it's very surprising often what comes up, isn't it?
Yes.
I get almost into this automatic writing where I'm not even paying attention to what's coming out a lot of the time. And when I read it back, it doesn't even look like my writing sometimes, because I just get so into it. And I like to listen to these binaural beats on YouTube while I do it, because that music really transports me to a place where I can dig into that. I'm not someone who finds meditation very easily, so I can't sit in silence. I don't like saying I can't. It's like a limiting belief, isn't it? But I guess I choose not to sit in silence, because it's too easy for me to then start listing a bajillion other things that I could be doing. Whereas those binaural beats, which I've mentioned before, and I'll pop a link again, to me it's music, and I find music so transformational and so soothing and healing, and it calms down my monkey chatter like nothing else. So that, like you say, there are a million different ways you can do it. You find what works for you, but I definitely encourage you to try it if you haven't already, or if you've tried it before and it didn't work, reach out in the Facebook group, ask for some help, ask for some guidance, or for some, ask everyone else how they're doing it. I did actually create a journaling challenge. I can't remember if I've told anyone about that yet or not, but I have. It's only something I did recently. I know it's gone live in the Confidence Academy Members Club, but it's something that I plan to share as a freebie just for anyone who wants to get into journaling. So definitely check that out when I post up about that. So you were going to share some grounding techniques with us today. So before we go into that, can you explain what the term grounding means? Because everyone may not be familiar with that term.
Of course. So I think when I define grounding, I really believe it connects with this idea of centering yourself. So anyone who suffers from anxiety knows and will be able to relate to the feeling of really falling really quickly or spiraling really quickly in a place where you lose control, right? You suddenly feel like your thoughts are in charge of you as opposed to you are in charge of your thoughts. Right. So a grounding exercise is an effort, really intentional practice that you put into place when you start to feel yourself falling down that familiar precipice of no longer being the agent for your action, where the anxiety is now the agent for your action. And we don't want that. You're in charge.
Absolutely.
Anxiety, not in charge.
Yes.
So that's how I think of grounding. I think it's very similar to if you do any sort of yoga practice or if you have any sort of meditation practice, which I know folks do, the principle of centering yourself. To me, those are very similar, grounding and centering. It's really getting yourself reconnected to who you are and what your wants and needs are.
Yeah. And I think the way I look at it, it's probably not a very glamorous explanation, but to me, it's like slapping myself around the face and going, okay, before you go down that road of total overwhelm, and you have a choice. If you want to go down that road, you can, but just before you go, let's just chill the hell out. Let's get back to neutral, because isn't it true that the minute you start going down that panic road, you view everything from panic, and you find more reasons to panic, more reasons to be anxious, and more reasons to lose control. And
absolutely,
this is what a panic attack feels like to me quite often. And obviously the more you have, the more tuned into them you are. But when a panic attack starts to come on, you get to recognize the sensations. Oh God, I'm starting to feel dizzy, and maybe I can't breathe so well, and actually it's really hot in here, and is that music really loud, and it spirals quickly. These grounding techniques are literally, if you can recognize the symptoms of a panic attack coming on, and you have the presence of mind to go, okay, I still have a choice and I choose to ground myself, you can actually avoid going into full-blown panic attack. And I've done it myself. It's very interesting when you're able to do that, because you become very aware of the two kind of sides of you that are at war when a panic attack is about to kick in. Because there's the regular you going, what the hell's going on? Like rationally saying, I don't know why I'm panicking. And then there's that, I call it my dark side. It's like this blackness that just descends, and it's like, no, this is what we're doing. You're going into panic right now, and you've lost all your control. And it's a really mean set of voices that, that can come up. But these grounding techniques will shut them back down. And I literally see it as, sit down, shut up, go and sit in the corner. Like, I'll let you know when you're going to be useful, but right now you're not being of any use to me whatsoever.
I love how stern you got when you said that. You had like your mom voice, like creep in, where you have to be stern with anxiety. You can't be sort of gentle and wishy-washy. You can't be open and accepting. I mean, this is a clear boundary violation where anxiety has stepped past its usefulness and is now violating your joy. It's robbing you of being present. And that's where grounding really comes in. It really is meant to bring you back into the present, as opposed to falling down the rabbit hole in your mind.
Absolutely. So take us through some grounding tips that you can share with us today. Specifically, if people haven't done this before, then, if you haven't done this before, listen up, take some notes and give it a try. even if you don't understand what it is, or even if you don't think it will work, give it a try. That's what this is all about.
That's exactly it. So I'm going to go through 3 separate exercises, and they're related. You can certainly do them in tandem. You could incorporate them in a certain order, right? Because different occasions call for different types of grounding.
Okay.
So to that end, I want to start with something very, very simple. And that is, when you find yourself kind of in that space right before a panic attack, if you have the awareness to recognize that you've been triggered, or that you're starting to experience the physiological responses, the sweaty palms, the accelerated heartbeat, the dry mouth, right? The dizziness, whatever your unique set of symptoms are, as they start to manifest, one of the things I really encourage folks to do is get very, very minutely aware of your surroundings. So pick some fixed elements in the space that you're in. So if it's a room with a clock, really tune into the clock and then start to listen for the beat of the clock, the rhythmic sort of bop, 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 right? If there is, for whatever reason, you're in a kitchen with a drippy faucet, if there's a drip, a sound, a rhythmic notion, I want you really zoned in and focused on elements in your physical environment. What that does to ground you is it forces you to stop thinking the thoughts that you have and instead focus and hone in on real, physical, tangible sensations around you, right?
Right.
So I covered sort of the auditory and the visual. Another technique, and this is a really good prep option, particularly for those of us that really struggle with social anxiety and get very stressed going into public situations, right? Is to carry something that has a scent that is very positively associated with your life. So for me, that scent is jasmine. I love the smell of jasmine, and it really soothes me and calms me. And for me, jasmine has an association to my grandmother in India, which is where I grew up. And I have really positive memories from my childhood running around sort of fields, and women had jasmine in their hair, and it would smell like jasmine. So for me, that's the inherent connection. For you, it might be gardenias, it might be almonds, it might be vanilla. I don't know what your scent is going to be, but whatever it is, make sure it's something that has a powerful association to something positive from your past, right? And if you carry that with you, then if you smell that scent, it should really signal to your immune autonomic system that you are fine. You are not going into fight or flight here. You're not freezing. You're experiencing life for what it is.
I love that. And actually, I understand the power of scent, because as much as I talk about music being transformational, but actually I'm the same with smells. And I now have certain perfumes. Like when I got married, I very deliberately picked a brand new perfume because I wanted to always smell that perfume and know that was what I wore when I got married. And I wore Gucci Flora, and even to this day, when I smell it, I just remember all the excitement of the day, like not just the day, like that a whole period of time around it. And there's perfumes I remember wearing in college when we would just like lie around in fields, and when life maybe seemed a little bit simpler. And when you're having a bad day, putting on some really nice perfume or some spray, or I'm a massive fan of these reed diffusers, and I've got oils that I burn at home. Literally, it's really, really interesting how powerful that can be. And again, like people might think, there's no way that, how is just sniffing something going to make my anxiety go away? Well, for a start, the goal is not for anxiety to go away. The goal is just to allow you to see that you can thrive even with it. And the smell thing, I completely get that. I love that. It's a really good idea.
I hope you test it out pretty soon yourself, Lily. It sounds like you used that one.
I will, in fact, I probably did it and didn't even realize that's why I did it. But I find smells very comforting. It probably makes me sound really strange.
No, not at all.
I like smells.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? Because think about where our olfactory bulb is. So in our brain, physiologically, your nose, sort of your nasal cavity, goes directly up into your olfactory bulb. So your nose sits in a place that connects to where the smell center is.
Right.
So unlike so many of our other sensational events, our occipital lobe is all the way in the back of our heads, but our eyes are all the way in the fronts of our heads. That doesn't make much sense, but that's how we're built. That's how we're built, you know?
That's how we're put together.
Yes.
But no, I can completely see how that would work. And you know, I'm sure there are others who can relate to this as well. You know, if you go, like, I remember the first time I went back into a school when it had been several years since I'd been to school, and the schools, even now, schools just have a schooly smell, don't they?
They do.
And you're instantly back age 6, like, you know, going into school, or age 12, or like whatever it may be, which may or may not be a good thing for you. It depends whether you like school or not. But yeah, I find that really interesting. Like, the smell of cut grass reminds me of being a young child, because I just remember being out in my back garden, probably about 6 or 7 years of age, where my mum and dad used to set up a little easel for me so I could paint outside. And the smell of cut grass is what I remember when I was doing that. I'd have a little orange lolly. I had a little seat that was just for me, and that smell of cut grass. And the minute I smell cut grass, now I'm just like, oh, I just love it. It makes me feel all happy because I had a happy childhood, and you know, it's really, really powerful. So yeah, I can completely see. But to be honest, I've never heard that. I've never done that in relation to my anxiety knowingly. So it's interesting. I'm going to make sure that I remember that. So when I'm having what I call a wobble day, I can get the sense on the go and kick that to the curb.
That's exactly right.
And was there one more?
There was one more. And so the final one, again, they all track back to senses. So of course, again, our tactile sense, our sort of skin sensations are really powerful. So one of the things I encourage folks to do, and this one is a little bit extreme and a little bit controversial, so I want to disclaim it up front, is particularly if you're a woman, but even if you're a man, right? We often wear our headbands or rubber bands on our wrists if we're pretending we need to pull our hair back for something. So if you have this built-in prop, if you use it to just very gently snap it on your wrist, so it gives you the sensation of physical kind of friction. The idea is not to hurt. The idea is not to cause pain, but it is meant to snap you, quite literally, out of your anxious state and focus your energy on the physical sensation of this rubber band or, you know, like hair tie, really kind of slapping your skin.
I can really see how that would work as well. Because actually, you know, all a panic attack is you've completely gone all in with that first notion of, like, whatever the trigger thought was, whatever the trigger was, you've just thrown 100% all into that. And to me, it's like, you know, when you're having a dream, and you know, and this happens quite often with a really good dream, and then something happens and you're snapped out of it, and you're like, oh wait, where was I? Like, and you're desperately trying to get back into that place when Brad Pitt was about to, you know, knock on your door, whatever it might be. But you know, maybe the sound of a you know, rubbish truck outside has woken you up, or you know, in my case, one of my many children screaming or shouting or, you know, doing something like that. But it's that pattern interrupt, isn't it? It's like, oh, by the way, here's something completely different that's not at all related to that path you're about to go down. And that would, you know, it's exactly as you said, it's a grounding technique, because it will give you one more opportunity to go, do I want to do this, or do I want to breathe in and out, and, you know, and then maybe start listening for those other things you talked about, or you know, trying to find a scent or something. I can completely, again, see how that would work. And you're right, quite often we do walk around with these things on our wrist anyway.
Absolutely.
So
they're handy little tools. The more we can use of what we have on us, right, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really key point as well, because when it comes to changing any habit, whether it's an anxiety habit or whatever it is, you know, whether it's, you know, weight loss, which I'm talking about a lot at the moment just because I've just had a baby, so that's forefront in my mind at the moment. But whatever it is, it's that's kind of how it all comes together for you. It's it's very easy to get overwhelmed and go, I don't have time to do that, or I would never think to do that. And we make it much harder in our minds. Whereas if you can just, you know, like you said, use something that's already going to be on you. So we're not saying you have to remember to put a rubber band on your wrist every morning. It's just, that may be, you know, I mean, if it's for ladies, do it with your bra strap, surely. Like, you know,
Really?
you know, you could flick that as well. Like, it just, and the thing is, it doesn't even have to be that. The point is, do something that's going to interrupt that pattern of thought, that's going to interrupt you before you go all into that, you know, panic way of thinking. I think
everything about grounding is about bringing you back. Because so much of what you described, I thought the example of the dream was a really powerful one, because what panic brings to you, what anxiety brings to you, is disruption of a current process, because it's taking you away and out of the moment, as well as disorientation, because you're not choosing to get pulled away. It's not a choice that you've made. However, grounding is a choice that you are making to come back, to stay here in the present moment. And that's huge. And that's huge.
And it's very empowering to even have these techniques as well. And, you know, and I think it's important to say that, you know, try these techniques out. There are probably going to be times where maybe it doesn't work for you for whatever reason. And the important thing then, and always actually, is to just still show yourself love, show yourself compassion. Don't beat yourself up that you didn't remember to twang the elastic on your wrist or whatever it may be. You know, just catch it. But actually, one thing I learned to do was to get really curious about my thinking. I got really curious about my reactions to things. So it's just a better way to go. So and I'm really good at beating myself up. So because I'm aware of that now, I think, okay, well, I could beat myself up, or I could just get really, you know, curious as to why did I do that? Why did I think that? Why was that my reaction? And almost look at it like I'm a super detective, you know, on a big case, and like, you know, what is that about? And that in itself is empowering, because that in itself comes from a mindset of, I'm still in charge of this. And now I'm going to look at what that reaction was, because I know on some level I chose it, and why did I? Rather than this mindset of, oh, I'm just consumed with anxiety and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. Like, there's nothing that empowers you less than that feeling of, oh my God. But, you know, it happened to me only recently, and I can't remember why, but it was like literally a week, like within the last week, where just a catalogue of things happened. It was just one of those days where something happens and then straight away something else happened. And I got to a point where I was like, oh my God, I do not have control of this. And I almost pressed pause on everything. It was like everything just hung in midair around me. And I was like, no, like, I'm not this person that loses control. I'm not this person that, I'm not comfortable with anxiety having this much power. So I don't know what has happened to make all of this go on, but it stops now. And it was like, literally, I got a bit arsey with it and was like, actually, no, like, you know, that might have worked a few years ago. I know better now. And that's the thing, you know, when you know better, you do better, don't you? And, you know, you don't have to beat yourself up for the way you react, because if you'd known better, or if you'd had more information, you maybe wouldn't have done that. So, you know, it's compassion for yourself is a huge piece of the puzzle.
And I also really, really think that deep down, the well of hopefulness is present and powerful. So if we are leaning into the hopelessness of the moment, I think that is an opportunity to press pause and self-reflect on all the things in our lives that we have to be grateful for, that we have, that instills and infuses that hope. Because without hope, we can't possibly triumph in the face of anything.
Right. And actually, life is going to unfold the way life is going to unfold.
Yes.
We decide whether we are going to cling on by our fingernails and be dragged along, or whether we're going to sit up front and drive the damn thing. Like, life is happening regardless. And actually, the other thing I love to remind myself of and say to others as well is, you know, no matter what you're going through or have been through or how bad it may seem, you've survived this far.
Yes.
You have 100%. Somebody said this actually on one of my interviews this week. You have 100% success rate at your life. Like, you didn't fail. Even if you feel like a failure, if you're still here, you didn't fail. You know, maybe it was hard and maybe it felt tough and maybe it didn't pan out the way you thought. And by the way, spoiler alert, I don't think life ever does. I think, you know, the sooner you can start to roll with the punches. Like, a great analogy for this actually is having kids, because when I had my first child, Louis, everything was jarring to me. You know, the lack of sleep I found really jarring, and the crying, I was like, I don't understand this. And, you know, trying to figure everything out, everything just felt like a battle, like it was hard and like I didn't understand it. And, you know, and I've just had Sophia 8 weeks ago, and obviously she's my third child now. And I keep saying to people how blessed I feel to have had her, because I'm truly enjoying her every day. And it's not that she doesn't poo 50,000 nappies a day. She does. It's not that she doesn't wake up in the night. She does. I'm no longer resistant to it. I'm no longer going to bed wishing for 12 hours, because I know I'm probably not going to get 12 hours. To me, if I get an hour, that's a good thing. So when I get 4, I'm on top of the world. You know,
I think that's so valid, Lily. I really think that's the secret sauce, right? This idea that if we adjust our expectation to match our situation. So it's not that you are changing the standard. I think this is what people struggle with is, oh, if I shift my expectations, I'm just lowering the bar for what's acceptable to me.
Right.
Yes, in this moment, that is what you're doing. But a shift in expectations is not a permanent decrease in any sort of standard. It is situationally driven to encourage you, embolden you, and strengthen you in this moment to triumph so that you can live for tomorrow to have a different expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that is something that I always remind myself of. It's that power of perception. You know, you may not have the power to change a situation, but you always have the power to see it differently. And I love a coach called Gabrielle Bernstein. She's someone, I've read her books and I've done a couple of her programs, and she has an affirmation actually, and she suggests that you put it on your phone. So this is actually something I was going to say, going back to your grounding techniques. Another thing that I do is I have alarms that go off on my phone. Now, when I was first into this, I had an alarm that would go off like every hour sometimes. Now, I just have one that goes off in the morning to wake me up just in case I haven't been woken up by the kids or something. But the alarm, this is a good thing as well. That alarm no longer just says alarm, which is the standard kind of labeling. On an iPhone, you can change it. So my alarm now says it goes off at 6 or 7, depending on what I need. And when I open my eyes to shut it off, it says, you are awesome. There's nothing you can't do. So it's the first thing I see in the morning. It's just that affirmation that I'm awesome and there's nothing I can't do. Absolutely nothing if I put my mind to it. And then I have one that goes off at about 4:30 at the moment in the afternoon, and it just says gratitude. And it just goes off and it says gratitude. And the funny thing was, it went off today, literally 10 seconds after my middle child, Freddie, had thrown my brand new iPhone on the floor. And I mean, thankfully it didn't crack, but I did have to chuckle to myself because I thought, wow, that would have been very powerful if I was about to have a complete bitch fit about the fact that he smashed my phone, you know, for my little phone to go, gratitude. I'd be like, oh man, like that is a test right now because I'm here with my smashed up iPhone. As it happened, the iPhone didn't break, so the gratitude was easy. I was like, I'm great.
Oh, yes.
The phone didn't break, you know. But yeah, but that in itself would be a pattern interrupt. And I find that, you know, I set that alarm because I heard a coach recommend to do it, Katrina Ruth, who I talk about all the time, because she does this. And what I've found, though, on more than one occasion I set that alarm at 4:30. I don't know why. I guess it was 4:30 on the day that I heard to do that. So I just set it for that time. But more often than not, that reminder to be grateful has come in at a very poignant moment right when I've needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just find that magical. I love it. And again, imagine if at 4:29, I was about to have a meltdown over something, and then my phone went, gratitude. Even if I go, oh, piss off, like I've got nothing to be grateful for, I've still interrupted that pattern.
Yes.
I've gone from anxious to anger, and actually that's a step up the emotional scale.
Mm-hmm.
You can work with anger.
It's active. Yep.
Exactly. And obviously you don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay angry your whole life, but it's this idea of work your way up that scale gradually. Don't try and go from completely depressed or anxious to, being on top of the world and the happiest you could be, because whilst I'm sure that's possible, you won't believe it's possible because it seems such a stretch. So just think to yourself again, when you've done these grounding techniques that Mili has shared with us today, then the next thing you can do is say, okay, well, so where do I go from here? Well, right now I feel anxious. So maybe anxious could become curious. Maybe I don't have to be anxious about this situation. Maybe I get to be curious about it. And you can work your way up. And actually, I'll share that scale. I can't remember the name of the guy that first did it, but it's been reused and reused a bunch of times by lots and lots of different people. And it's because it's so powerful. I actually found it in a book called Ask and It Is Given, which is the Jerry and Esther Hicks, the Abraham stuff. So, but I don't think it was theirs to start with. It's some doctor that came up with it. But it's just this acknowledgement that we have this full range of emotions, and actually they've all got a purpose. So that's why I say your mission should never be to get rid of anxiety. It should never be to get rid of any of your emotions. But maybe the goal is just to manage it better or feel like you have more control of it. One question I just had that I'm sure some people will ask, and I'm only asking because I'm sat here with an 8-week-old baby in my lap, is when you're doing these grounding techniques, what would you say is the best one to use in a situation where there's a relentless situation that's stressing you out? So I'm thinking a baby that won't stop crying. Now, I remember with my second child, which is where all my anxiety came from, and I'm still not convinced I didn't have a little bit of, the baby blues. It was never diagnosed. Yeah, it was never diagnosed, but when I look back at what I was going through and what I felt, there was definitely an element of that. And when you're in that space, you and your baby's crying, and maybe the TV's too loud, and if you've got other kids, maybe they're being really noisy, and then you drop a plate, and when everything starts to compound and you really just feel like you're losing your grip and you're like, I can't, and you're right at that point where you're about to completely lose it, what are the best grounding techniques in that situation, in your opinion? What would you say?
So for me, I think this is a challenging one to use in that moment for the first time. So I think this is a grounding practice. You talked about mantras, and I think a really good mantra for me has always been, and I do this when I wake up in the morning, I sit up, I get my feet firmly planted on the ground, and I sit as straight as I can. I'm always working on my posture. It is not excellent, but it's getting there. And I take a deep breath in, and I hold it for about a couple of seconds, and I release it. And then I say out loud, every day, in every way, I am getting better and better.
I love that.
And I do it 3 times. And in between, I take a deep breath, inhale, hold for 10 seconds, release, exhale, and I repeat it. And I think that is a practice, as you are describing. Again, not to try the first time the dishes are crackling, the baby's crying, the dog is barking, your husband is once again late when he was supposed to be home 20 minutes ago, right? Yeah. That is not the time to do this for the first time. But I do think if this is a practice that is a part of your life, that is the exact moment it is there for.
Yes.
So if this is built in, which means you need to start building it in now because those moments are unavoidable, then no matter what the situation is, you have enough time for 3 breaths and a slow but intentional repetition.
Yeah.
Every day, in
Yeah.
every way, I am getting better and better.
I got goosebumps when you said that, because I know there are people listening who feel like their anxiety is something that makes them broken, or that in some way means that they're not okay. And I think, how powerful would it be? And by the way, if you're doing this for the first time from a dark place, then you can be sure your mind monkey's going to be there while you're saying, I'm getting better and better. That mind monkey's going to be going, no, you're not. No, you're not. Yep. But you just have to push, just say it anyway. I guarantee, I want to challenge you all, actually. And we would love you to come back and tell us what this does for you. For the next 5 days, let's say, or the next week or month, if you can, do this every day. And then tell us what a profound difference that has on your life. Because the thing is, these mantras are not magic. They're not magic spells. It's not that you're going to say a bunch of words and everything's going to change, but the power of your mind is beyond measure. And when you're affirming to yourself every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better, you will start to believe that, and you will start to act accordingly, and you will start to find reasons to back that up. Whereas currently, maybe you're finding reasons to back up the belief that you'll never get through it and that you'll never get better. Because that in itself is a mantra, by the way. A mantra is anything you repeat to yourself over and over.
That's exactly right. Yes.
And you made a great point as well, which is start that practice now, because I think we're very, very much in the habit of trying these things when it's at the very worst point. Like, you'll take medicine when you feel completely, utterly crap, rather than just eating good food in the first place and trying to make sure that you don't get to that point. We're reactive, aren't we?
We're crisis oriented.
Yeah.
We do not love, prevention is better than cure. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. But we refuse to learn that lesson. We would rather have a pound of cure in a crisis than intervene and prevent things from happening. We come from this, and here in the United States especially, we come from if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
How about we maintain it so it doesn't break, people?
Yeah. Good point. Absolutely. And, and this is why they call it a practice, because it won't come naturally at first, but you can, even if you have to write it physically in your diary that, this is what I'm going to do. I do it with daily intentions. I write them in my journal, and, I'll write things out, specific to goals that I've maybe set for myself. But at some point, it always comes back to a bunch of I am statements, and I just let those flow. And it always comes out, I am powerful, I am thankful, I am blessed, I am unstoppable. And sometimes the I am statements don't come as easily if I'm feeling tired or, down for whatever reason. This morning, they were bubbling up out of me. I couldn't write them quick enough because the sun was out, I just woke up and was like, today is going to be amazing.
Yes.
But,
it has been. And it has been.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I recorded a live stream earlier, more for myself than anything else, because I know for sure, because it's life, there's going to be a day again where maybe I'm not so bouncy, and I'm going to need to remind myself of everything I knew to be true today. I've had a really good day, and I just woke up and was like, today is an awesome day. And, it's that same affirmation. My favorite affirmation is, I have a few actually, but my favorite one to use most of the time, and I use this in times of panic, is we are okay, we are always okay, or I am okay, I am always okay, or always more than okay. And that actually came to me once. I was having a stressful time. I'd gone to bed, I was really at my wit's end, and as I often do in those times, I threw the question out to, the universe, God, whatever label you want to give it. And I was like, I don't know the answer to this question. Please help me. Please show me, what it is. I was like, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough of this. I don't have enough of that. And I'll never forget it. I woke up in the middle of the night because I thought I heard talking. And when I came to, because I just thought it was one of my kids, but when I came to, there was nobody there. So I pushed the button on my phone to look at the time, and it said 1:11. Now, at the time, I didn't know what 1:11 meant. If you're into numerology or angel numbers, you'll be going, oh my God, right now. At that point, I didn't know what it meant, but something said to me, this is significant. So I screenshotted it on my phone and I went back to sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'd forgotten that had even happened. But as I came to, like, that kind of place between where you're not quite asleep, but you're not quite awake yet, there was a very clear, audible voice saying, there's always enough. There's always more than enough. And when I woke up, I just felt this sense of complete calm and whatever, I can't even remember what it was that was stressing me out, but I suddenly felt like I could deal with it. And it wasn't that, you know, I didn't get the message, oh, this is exactly what you need to do. But it was just, chill out, there's always more than enough. And I now have that written on a little star, and it's stuck to my ceiling with a bunch of other affirmations. And it's the first thing I see when I wake up, and it's the last thing I see when I go to bed, that there's always more than enough, and that we are always more than enough as well. And obviously then I looked up what 1:11 meant in angel numbers, and it was the fact that it's a sign that your guides are near, and it's also an invitation to watch what you're thinking, because you are a master manifester and you're creating your reality from your thoughts. And it's just a little nudge to go, might want to watch what you're thinking there, Lily, because you are creating that as you speak. So and actually the day that followed, it got ridiculous. I went for a spa day. My locker was number 11. We arrived at 11:11. The following day after that, I went to a big store called The Range, which is like a big, like Walmart type place. And I was going up the escalator. They've got these special ones that you can take the trolleys on. And my trolley became dislodged and started to tip up, and my kid was in it as well. So I was desperately trying to get it back on the thing, and it scratched my leg. And when I came off at the top and was like, oh God, I'm glad I avoided that, I looked down and the scratches had gone in 3 lines, 1, 1, 1 on my leg. And I was like, dude, I get it. Like, this is
signs.
It was next level ridiculous. That was one of the most amazing things. And then when I told my mum, she was like, well, you do realize that Louis was born on the 1st of November 2011. He's literally, and I've always called him my angel baby, but he's 1:11:11. And so, and then since then, anyone who knows me knows that I love numerology. I go nuts. And, you know, 1:11 is my sign. It's what I see all the time. And it brings me instant comfort. You know, I could be having the biggest freak out, and if I see 1:11 or 333 or anything that looks significant in numbers, it's like I can just go, oh no, it's okay, it's all right, I know I'm okay. You know, so it's that, it comes back to that affirmation, back to that mantra that I'm okay. You know, even if it doesn't feel like it, even if I can't see how this is going to work out, it's faith, isn't it? It brings you back to your faith. And I have faith that I'm going to be okay, even if I have no idea how.
And, you know, what I loved about what you said is shifting the perspective from one of deficit or not enough to really a culture of abundance.
Yes.
Of saying there is more than enough.
Yeah.
So much of anxiety, so much of insecurity, so much of unhappiness is rooted in not feeling internally like you are enough, or not feeling like externally there is enough.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as soon as we shift the frame on that and kind of topple it on its head to say, there's plenty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
then
so
magically there somehow is plenty. I don't know how. I don't know how. But
no, I know. Yeah, it really does. And, you know, and you've only got to look at a field of grass, like how many blades of grass, it's abundant. You know, look up in the sky for birds. There's like, there's a butt ton of birds, there's a butt ton of cloud, especially if you live in the UK, there's absolutely an abundance of clouds. So abundance is everywhere if you care to see it. And just as easy as it is for you to say there's never enough, that just means you're tuned into the things that you can't see there is enough of, but you can just as easily shift that focus and look at the things where there is abundance in abundance. And it's a really powerful thing. And I know, you know, I get quite woo-woo about it. That's just my nature. but there's actually a lot of scientific research that now backs this up. That this idea of positive thinking, loads of people just dismiss it because they're like, oh, how is that helpful, or how is that a thing? But it's been scientifically proven, if you spend time every day focusing your mind in a positive way, you will improve how you feel, you'll improve how you act, you will create your reality based on what is running through your mind. And it's not about writing in your thing, oh, I want a Porsche, and then expecting to find a Porsche. But if you keep writing, I want a Porsche, I bet you'll keep seeing Porsches. And I'll tell you something else, you will be given nudges that will get you that Porsche if you care to pay attention. It's an amazing thing. And there's actually something you can do if you want to test this out. So if you're hearing all this and going, what a load of crap, there's no way, I have a little test for you. Just go out today or tomorrow, or like whenever you're listening to this, and set yourself something that you wouldn't ordinarily see. So for example, I did this recently, and I said that I wanted to see, I think it was something on the road that was pink, because I thought, like, you don't see many pink cars, you don't see many pink motorbikes, pink just isn't that common. So I thought I can be pretty sure, because it was only a 10-minute journey. I thought if I see something pink, that will just prove to me, not that I have magic powers, although we all do, by the way, but that's a whole other podcast. But the fact that when you focus your mind, you notice. And I swear to God, I was coming down the road and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to see a pink car. And sure enough, first of all, I saw a pink sports car. It had obviously been modified. They'd obviously sprayed it, especially. And I was like, cool, there's my pink thing. And then literally 2 seconds later, an enormous pink coach. Like, who's ever seen a pink coach? Because I certainly haven't, and I haven't since. This massive pink coach just drove by and I just laughed. I was like, that's funny. And I play the game with my kids now. We do it with minis. So if you just say to yourself, I'm going to see a mini, you will see minis everywhere you go. And it's not that you've made minis appear. The minis were always there, just like the answers are always there. And the hope is always there, and the positivity is always there. When you tune your mind to look for it, you will find it, and you will keep seeing it again and again and again. And it will be a massive pink coach, and you'll wonder how you ever missed it in the first place. But yeah, it was a really cool experiment, and I did laugh out loud when it came along, because I was like, oh, well, that's just showing off, isn't it?
Yeah. And where I live, it's not minis, because in the UK, I know you have more minis than we do.
Yeah.
But it is Priuses here where I live in Southern California.
Yeah.
It's Prius. As soon as you're looking for them, they're absolutely everywhere. But if you're driving around mindlessly, you're not going to see them.
No. And like, even when I found out I was pregnant, all I saw were pregnant ladies. So many pregnant women, so many women with babies, that I'm sure they were all there before, but my brain wasn't on that frequency, and therefore I didn't notice it. The thing is, our minds are so expansive, and this universe is so expansive. There's so much of it that you don't see, that you maybe don't understand. And I guess, by the way, it says 2111 on my computer. I'm just pointing that out. We've got some 111 action going on. Whatever. I can't remember the point I was trying to make, but basically, it's so expansive. You can't possibly hope to have all of the answers in front of you right there and then. If you think that your anxiety is something that you're always going to struggle with, play the game of, well, yeah, but what if it wasn't? Like, what if anxiety was actually my greatest gift? Like I said, you don't even have to get rid of it. For me, my anxiety has been my greatest gift, because it's led me to do this. I have this podcast. I have my Confidence Academy online, where I'm now helping other people who have anxiety and low confidence issues. It's given me so much direction, even with things that I was running before the anxiety came along. So I run a choir here in Salisbury, and it's always been awesome. But now it's so funny in hindsight that the steps were all being put there for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but even the fact that I called it evolution is just mind blowing to me. because it really is about evolving as a person and evolving in faith and in confidence and in all of these things. And when I can look back at that journey, I can really see how those things were laid out. And the journey to that coming about was not an easy one. And certainly at times not something I ever thought I could say I was grateful for. And yet I'm immensely grateful for it. And so, you know, if you're going through something now that feels hard or impossible, just, you know, open up to the possibility of the fact that perhaps that massive challenge that you're seeing right now, that massive block, is not a block at all. It's not something to stop you. It's something for you to climb up on, to elevate to the next thing. You know, believe that everything that's coming to you is for a purpose and it's for your greatest good, and believe that you're always okay, because we truly are, even if we can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, Mili, this has just been wonderful. I could talk to you for hours. I love it.
So lovely.
It's amazing. And I think, you know, the work that you're doing is incredible as well. And especially for that age range, because that's right about where you start to, you know, that we've broken the bubble, haven't we? Just a few years before that, you know, you've broken the bubble of everything's wonderful. Mm-hmm. And certainly for me, that was when I started to see the world differently. And some of my initial beliefs got shaken.
Absolutely.
So I think and I think the fact you're working with the women or the people at that point in their life is phenomenal, and I wish you all the very best with it.
Thank you.
So as with all of the episodes, I'd like to finish on the megaphone message. So if you had a megaphone and the ability to reach all of the anxiety sufferers in the world, what would your inspirational message to those people be?
My message would be one of hope. And I think to that end, I would say you are both a masterpiece and a work in progress.
Beautiful.
That's it.
And so true. So true. In fact, I think that could also be an affirmation. Mm-hmm. I encourage you to write that down, to remind yourself, I'm going to do it, because I love that. Because that kind of just covers all bases, doesn't it?
It does. It's a both and. You know, we're so quick to say this or that. Well, it could be this and that.
Yes, that is such a powerful shift of one word can change everything. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And if people would like to find out more about the work that you're doing, or if they would like to connect with you directly to speak about anything we covered in this episode, or anything else for that matter, what's the best way for them to do that? How can they find you?
I would love to hear from whoever is listening that's touched by any of the topics we've talked about. The best way to reach me is at Mili, M-I-L-I, at Swell Collective, you know, swellcollective.org. And if you want to learn more about the summit and everything we have going on with leadership, the website for that is wearepowersummit.com. And that's we, just the letter R, power.
Yeah. Okay.
So awesome. Look us up, get in touch, and be kind to yourself.
Yes. And if you are going to do the mantra that Mili shared with us, if you're going to take up that challenge, please let us know what that does for you. We'd love to hear back, wouldn't we?
Yes, we would absolutely love it. And we want you to try it. Try it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, your anxiety is going to make you feel like you can't, or that for whatever reason you shouldn't. And we are telling you, we are giving you the power back, and we are saying your anxiety doesn't know what it's talking about. And so do it anyway. I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you how it goes. But I really love that. I really love that idea. And what a beautiful way to start your day. It's just, and so easy, so quick. You know, everyone's got time to do that, haven't they?
Absolutely. And you don't even have to set your alarm for any earlier, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly when you wake up, and just add that 30 seconds in. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah. You could be saying that to yourself while you're brushing your teeth. Mm-hmm. You know, like we said earlier, this is about life hacks, really, because the first thing you'll do is find a bunch of reasons why this isn't possible. Mm-hmm. So, you know, do it when you're taking a shower, do it as you're making the kids lunches, or whatever the things are you do every single day. brushing your teeth is a great one. I do gratitude when I brush my teeth.
Yes.
So it's like, I'm brushing my teeth. What am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful for the fact I can clean my teeth for a start.
Yes.
And I'm sure everyone around me is grateful for that as well.
We are, Lily. Thank you.
Yeah. On behalf of mankind, thank you. But yeah, this is it. And if you're telling yourself it's too hard, then challenge that belief and go, yeah, but what if it wasn't? Then how would that look? And how can I incorporate it? Amazing stuff. Thank you so much, Mili. Thank you for coming on this podcast and being so generous with your time and your resources.
Of course. Thank you,
choking my
Lily.
child. Sorry, Sophia is just choking on her milk as I wrap up this podcast. This is real life, folks. We're feeding babies over here, and
life hacks.
Exactly. See, I'm a multitasker at the best of times.
Absolutely.
Awesome stuff. What I wanted to say was we're going to put all of the links to the links that Mili shared, we'll put into the podcast show notes. So don't worry if you didn't get the spellings or if you didn't get that written down. You can just click on the show notes, click on the links, and it will take you right there to where you need to go. Mili's also going to come and hang out in the Confidence, I can't even speak, the Confidence Academy podcast Facebook group. So if you have questions or suggestions or feedback or anything like that, we love to hear it. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing when it's helped. I especially love hearing when you're finding it a challenge, because we want to, at the end of the day, we want this to work for you. So if you try something and it doesn't work, tell us.
Yes,
Get in touch, let's share it, let's hash it out together and find a solution for you. And it just remains for me to say a massive, massive thank you once again, Mili, for being here with me, for being so generous with your time, as I said. And to everybody listening, thank you so much for being loyal to this podcast, for listening as you do, and for all of the lovely messages that I've been receiving. Keep listening, keep checking it out, and remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. I'll be back soon with another episode, and I'm sending you loads of love. Bye-bye.
And that's us done for another episode. I hope you are now feeling uplifted, inspired, and motivated, and ready to start making those positive changes starting today. If you love this episode and would like to connect with me or any of my amazing guests, then get on over to the Facebook group and join the conversation there. And for additional support and accountability, why not become a member of the Confidence Academy Members Club? You will find all of the relevant links in the show notes beneath this episode. Plus, I am so excited to announce that the Singing Club is back. This is my amazing 8-week program for people who have always wanted to learn how to sing. Singing has been and continues to be one of the main ways in which I keep my own anxiety at bay. I believe almost anyone can learn to sing, and if it's something you've always wanted to do, then you just have to be part of this next round. The program will run live via a private Facebook group where you can get feedback and support from me and the other group members. And the best part is, when you pay for this program, you are a member for life. That means that every time I run the course, you can come through it again and again as many times as you like, regardless of how many updates and price changes there may have been. Head on over to lilybadcock.com for the full details. In the meantime, I'll be back again soon with another new episode and more amazing guest experts. But until then, look after yourself, dream big, and live bigger. And remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it.